Hey everyone. I know Halloween is just around the corner and things might be getting a little hectic.
Definitely. There's a lot going on.
So we thought we'd switch gears a bit today and dive into something a little different. Something to maybe help find a little more peace amidst all the chaos.
Sounds good to me.
We're going to be looking at a YouTube video by Hale Dwoskin.
Okay.
He teaches something called the Sedona Method.
Interesting. And what is that exactly?
Well, it's basically a way to deal with stress and anxiety, but it's a little bit different than what you might be used to.
How so?
Well, Dwoskin has this really interesting idea. He says that stress, tension, all that anxiety we feel, it's not really a fact.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
It's just a feeling, like any other feeling.
I like that because we often treat our stress like it's this absolute truth, like, oh, this is just how it is.
But what if it's not? What if it's just a temporary state?
Yeah.
Something we can actually change.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it?
It is. I mean, think about it. You've probably tried all sorts of ways to manage stress before.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But this idea of actually changing our perspective on it instead of just trying to manage it.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. And you know what else Dwoskin says? He says we're not actually defined by our thoughts and feelings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He says we're something bigger, something more than that.
That reminds me of meditation.
Oh, how so?
Well, when you meditate, you kind of learn to step back from your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
You let them drift by without getting all caught up in them.
You just observe them.
Exactly. And this concept of being something bigger, it's kind of like that. It's about tapping into a space of pure awareness beyond all the mental chatter.
So it's like finding that inner peace, that stillness within.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? How do we tap into that deeper space?
Well, Dwoskin has a technique.
Okay, I'm listening.
It might sound a little strange at first. Instead of fighting stress, he says we should actually welcome it.
Welcome stress. Really, like invite it over for dinner.
Haha, not quite. But it's like, think about it. When we resist something, we often give it more power.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right.
Like if you try to hold a beach ball underwater, the more you push it down,
the harder it's going to pop back up.
Exactly. So if we stop resisting stress and just acknowledge it.
Could we actually diffuse it?
Possibly.
Yeah.
It's just definitely a new way of thinking about things.
It is. It's about shifting our relationship with stress. Instead of seeing it as the enemy.
Maybe we can make peace with it.
Exactly. So instead of saying, I'm so stressed, you might say, there's that feeling of stress again. Hello, stress.
It's like you're not claiming ownership of it. You're just acknowledging its presence.
Exactly. You're becoming an observer.
Interesting. So I'm not trying to pretend I want to be stressed. I'm just saying, hey, I see you.
Exactly. And Dwoskin says that this welcoming can actually lead to the negative emotion dissolving all on its own.
That's pretty amazing. Like just by not fighting it, we gain control over it.
And that's where this idea of beingness comes in.
Beingness. Okay, tell me more about that. What is beingness exactly? Is it just like existing?
It's a little more than that. It's more about finding that still point within yourself. Like imagine you're standing on a beach and there are all these waves of stress crashing in.
Okay, I can picture that.
Beingness is like finding a solid rock to stand on. You're still aware of the waves, but they can't knock you over.
That's a great analogy. So beingness is that inner peace, that solid ground that helps us stay steady.
Exactly. And Dwoskin emphasizes that this is a practice. It takes time to cultivate that sense of beingness.
It's like building a muscle. The more we use it,
the stronger it gets.
Right. So we welcome the feeling, we tap into beingness. And I noticed that Dwoskin mentions that his video is meant to be listened to multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because, we've spent years reinforcing these thought patterns, these reactions to stress.
So they're pretty deeply ingrained.
Right. And by repeatedly practicing this method of welcoming and allowing, we might actually start to rewire those automatic responses.
So instead of getting stuck in that same old stress spiral,
we're choosing a different path.
A more peaceful path.
Exactly.
This is definitely making me rethink how I deal with stress. Yeah. Usually I just try to distract myself or push it down.
Yeah, a lot of us do that.
But what if I just welcomed it? Allowed it to be there without letting it control me.
That's the invitation Dwoskin offers. It's a new way of relating to stress, a way that might lead to greater peace and freedom. It really is a different way to think about things, isn't it?
It is. This whole idea of all fighting stress, I don't know, it's so different from what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my usual ways of dealing with stress haven't exactly been working miracles, so
Right.
I'm definitely open to new ideas.
And the nice thing about Dwoskin's approach is that it's not about adding more things to your to-do list.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, now I have to do all these extra things to be less stressed.
Right.
It's more about just becoming aware of what's already happening inside of you.
So it almost sounds too simple. Like, I just welcome the feeling and then, poof, it's gone. Is it really that easy?
Well, remember, Dwoskin talks about this being a practice. It's not like a one-time fix,
Yeah.
There are going to be times when you forget, when you fall back into old habits.
Right.
And that's totally okay. The important thing is to just keep coming back to this idea of welcoming, of allowing, of just being present with whatever comes up.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about being aware.
Exactly.
I have to admit, there's one part of this whole method that I'm still a little unsure about. What about just letting all our feelings run wild? Don't we need to have some control?
That's a really good question, and it's something a lot of people wonder about.
Yeah.
But, Dwoskin isn't saying that we should just indulge our negative emotions.
Right.
Or let them, control our actions.
It's not about letting our feelings boss us around.
No, not at all. It's about acknowledging them, seeing them for what they are, temporary states, and then choosing how we want to respond.
So it's about recognizing that we have a choice.
Yes, exactly. And that's where beingness comes in again.
Right.
By connecting with that deeper sense of ourselves, we're not so easily swayed by all the ups and downs of our emotions.
That beach analogy you used earlier,
Yeah.
I really like that. It's like finding that solid ground beneath all the waves of stress.
Exactly.
That place of inner peace that helps us weather the storm.
It's about recognizing that you're not the waves, you are the ocean.
Yeah.
Vast, deep, unchanging.
Okay, I'm really starting to get this. But how do we actually cultivate that sense of beingness? Like, is it something we can just decide to do? Or does it require, specific techniques?
Well, there are definitely things we can do to help us tap into that state of beingness.
Yeah.
Dwoskin talks a lot about the power of just allowing yourself to be present in this moment without judgment.
So not dwelling on the past, not worrying about the future, just being here now.
Yes, exactly. And, this aligns with a lot of other practices like mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like when you meditate, you're focusing on your breath and you let thoughts come and go without getting all caught up in them.
Exactly. So it's about cultivating that same sense of detached observation, but in our everyday lives. Noticing the feeling of stress, acknowledging it, and then gently bringing our attention back to the present moment.
It's like this whole idea of welcoming and allowing and beingness. It's not just about managing stress. It's about like a whole new way of being in the world.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
And what I find really inspiring is that Dwoskin encourages us to share this practice with others.
Absolutely.
Like pay it forward.
Exactly. Imagine the ripple effect if more and more people started approaching stress in this way.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. It's like we could create a whole new culture of peace and resilience.
And it all starts with each of us, Taking that first step, that first breath, that first moment of just allowing whatever is to be.
You know what? I have to admit, I am starting to get really intrigued by this whole approach.
Yeah.
It's definitely challenging some of my old beliefs about stress. So I'm curious, what about you, listener? Are you feeling drawn to this? To Dwoskin's kind of unconventional wisdom?
If you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all the Halloween craziness, or you're just looking for a deeper sense of peace in your life, this might be something worth exploring.
Here's a thought-provoking question for you to consider. Could simply welcoming and allowing those negative feelings be the key to letting them go?
What would it feel like to experience that freedom? To just move through your day with a sense of ease, even when things are challenging?
It's a really interesting idea.
It is.
We've talked a lot about the benefits of this approach.
Yeah.
But are there any downsides? Any things that people should be aware of?
That's a really important question. And while Dwoskin's methods are generally considered, safe and helpful, it's important to remember that everyone's experience is unique.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. And if you have any concerns about your mental health, it's always a good idea to talk to a qualified professional.
That is important to keep in mind. It's about taking care of ourselves in a way that feels right for us.
Absolutely. And remember, exploring these kinds of personal growth tools, it's a journey, not a destination,
Yeah.
There are going to be ups and downs, moments of clarity and moments of confusion.
That's part of the process.
Right.
It's about being patient with ourselves, trusting the process, and just staying open to the possibilities.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. If you're curious to learn more about the Sedona Method and Hale Dwoskin, there's a whole community out there. Lots of people exploring these ideas and supporting each other along the way.
It's like we've all got this secret weapon against stress.
Yeah.
And we just didn't know it. And the best part is it's like completely free.
It is.
No gadgets, no expensive programs,
No.
just the power of our own awareness.
That's what makes it so powerful, I think.
Yeah,
You know, it puts us back in control.
it does.
We're not victims of our emotions anymore. We get to choose how we respond.
And that choice, that shift in perspective can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
So as you're running around getting ready for Halloween or just dealing with the everyday craziness, remember what Dwoskin says.
Welcome the stress.
Welcome it.
Welcome the tension.
Yeah.
Welcome all that anxiety.
Don't try to fight it.
Don't be afraid of it.
Just let it be.
And see what happens.
You might be surprised at how much peace you can find. And that's it for our deep dive today. But the exploration doesn't end here. Keep thinking about that question. What would it feel like to be truly free from stress?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Maybe this is the start of something really amazing for you.
And if you want to keep going with this, there are tons of resources out there about the Sedona Method and Hale Dwoskin's work.
Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep on diving deep.